Code, a Claude-powered dev agent inside VS Code. Code is a free open-source AI-powered assistant that lives inside Visual Studio Code. Like having an AI-powered dev team in your editor, it can read and write code across multiple files, run commands, and even browse the web to gather information. Under the hood, it uses large language models. You can plug in Anthropic's Claude, OpenAI's GPT, Google's models, or local ones. And it lets you switch between specialized modes: architect, code, ask, debug, etc. for planning, writing, querying, and debugging code. This makes it much more than a simple autocomplete. You describe a task in natural language, and Code coordinates step-by-step actions to get it done, with you in control at every turn. This article unpacks Code's capabilities, from editing multiple files at once to running your test suite in the terminal, and shows how it can help with tasks like setting up environments, writing migrations, or running integration tests. We also compare different AI models you can use, discuss how to prompt Code for best results, and explain how it handles failures or errors. Finally, we cover how to configure Code safely so it doesn't accidentally overwrite important files, and how its built-in checkpoint system lets you reproduce or undo agent sessions. The goal is to make this accessible even to non-coders. By the end, you'll understand why Code might be useful in your workflow, who benefits most from it, and exactly how to get started on a simple coding task with this AI helper. What is Code and who should use it? Code is a VS Code extension that transforms your editor into an AI workstation. It can create files, run terminal commands, browse websites, and handle multi-step tasks across specialized modes. Think of it as a team of AI assistants. For example, one mode might act as a planning architect, another as a coding expert, another as a debugger, and so on. You switch modes by a simple drop-down or slash commands, e.g., typing /architect or /debug. This modular approach means you can ask Code to plan an architecture, then switch to code mode to implement it, or ask questions about your code in ask mode. Code is open source and model agnostic. You install the free extension under Apache 2.0 license from the VS Code marketplace, and then connect it to the AI model of your choice. If you have an Anthropic Claude API key, or OpenAI, Gemini, etc., you can plug it in. You can even run local models via tools like Ollama at no cost. Because the extension itself is free, you pay only for the AI models you use. This flexibility lets both hobbyists and professionals experiment. Beginners can try it out with free or trial models, while advanced developers can configure high-end models like Claude Opus or GPT-4o. For heavy-duty tasks, who benefits from Code? Because of its many options, it tends to shine for developers who want a powerful, customizable assistant. You have fine-grained controls. You must approve each file edit or terminal command by default. So it's safe, but requires some setup. As one review notes, Code's best for advanced VS Code users who want a customizable, multi-model agent with granular permission controls. Beginners can still use it. The core idea is straightforward. Type in what you want, in plain English, and Code will attempt it step by step. But be prepared to read a bit of documentation and maybe tweak a few settings. The payoff is an assistant that can do more than typical autocomplete, helping you learn by example and speeding up entire workflows. In short, Code is most useful for developers and learners who want to automate multi-step coding tasks and gain end-to-end assistance. It's great for prototyping, writing boilerplate, exploring new technologies, and managing complex changes. If you struggle with repetitive tasks or want help understanding your codebase, Code can act like a patient tutor or teammate. Throughout this article, we'll use examples like setting up a project, making database migrations, or running integration tests to show how Code can make those steps easier, often by acting autonomously but safely. Multi-file code edits. One standout feature of Code is the ability to edit multiple files at once. Unlike a simple autocomplete that changes only the current line or file, Code's AI agent can plan and execute coordinated refactorings across your project. For example, you might ask, rename this function and update all its uses. and root code will update that function definition in one file and all the call sites in other files in a single step. As the official root code site explains, it is built for multi-file edits, so it can read, refactor, and update multiple files at once for holistic code changes. This is powerful when you need to make big structural changes, like renaming classes, reorganizing modules, or updating configuration across a codebase. RuCode's agent reads the repository's context and figures out how all the pieces fit together. Community guides confirm this capability. A DataCamp tutorial notes that unlike standard autocomplete, RuCode can create files and handle tasks across specialized modes, effectively acting like a development partner that sees the whole project. Another review emphasizes that RuCode, built on the client extension, can do everything client does: read and write multiple files. That means if you ask it to refactor or move code, it will update every affected file, not just the one you're looking at. In practice, you write a clear instruction like refactor the user model, change all property names from snake case to camel case throughout the codebase, and then approve each proposed change. The AI will present all edits in a single plan so you can review before applying. Multi-file editing is especially useful in the following scenarios: refactoring, bulk renaming functions, inlining code, splitting or merging modules. RuCode can propagate changes project-wide. Feature expansion. If you add a new feature, it might need edits in multiple files, e.g., update routes in one file and add tests in others. You can instruct RuCode to implement a feature end-to-end. Code cleanup. For example, removing a deprecated API or property. Ru can search for all instances across files and update them. Cross-file analysis. In architect mode, you might ask RuCode to analyze your project structure and suggest changes. It could then switch to code mode to implement those changes. By handling several files in one task, RuCode saves you the tedium of doing repetitive edits manually. It shows you a plan of all edits across the codebase, and you confirm them. You stay in control. RuCode will never irreversibly rewrite your code without asking. All proposed file changes and even commands are permission-based by default. This means you get a list of planned edits with highlighted diffs, and you can approve or reject them one by one. You can also batch approve safe actions if you trust them, for example, reading or refactoring without dangerous deletes while leaving others for review. Terminal operations and environment setup. RuCode isn't limited to editing code. It can execute shell/terminal commands on your behalf. In code mode, the normal implementation mode, RuCode has full terminal and file system access. That means you can ask it to run your build script, install dependencies, initialize a database, or run tests. For instance, you could say, install the project dependencies, and RuCode will open a new terminal session in VS Code and run the commands: npm install, pip install-r, requirements.txt. If you have auto-approve off, it will ask you to confirm before running them. It can then watch the output and report back the results. This is very useful for environment setup. For example, setting up a new project often means installing packages, configuring environment variables, creating config files, or even scaffolding a Docker image. You can ask RuCode to help, e.g., set up a Python virtual environment and install Flask, or configure a PostgreSQL database for this app. The agent will run the needed python-mvenv. or pip-install. Adding users or config as needed. Because it reads your project, it knows where to put things and how they connect. It can even handle interactive commands like git init or npm init if prompted. You click approve and it supplies answers. Similarly, development tasks and scripts can be automated. For instance, RuCode can run scripts and capture logs. If you ask, run the test suite and fix any failures, it might run npm test or pytest, then enter debug mode if there are errors to help diagnose them. It can parse error output and suggest edits. One review mentions this end-to-end ability: browser automation and shell access for end-to-end tasks. In other words, RuCode can carry out full workflow steps, just like a developer would in the terminal. In the context of environment setup, RuCode can also handle things like building Docker containers or configuring CI pipelines. For example, you might prompt it, add a GitHub Actions workflow to run tests and deploy. It could create the .github/workflows YAML file and fill in steps. Or for migrations, ask, generate a database migration for adding a new column. RuCode will run the migration generator if using a framework like Django or Rails in the terminal. It can even modify migration files across multiple DS schemes if needed, leveraging its multi-file editing. Thanks to its shell integration, RuCode empowers you to script complex tasks without leaving VS Code. And because each command run is tracked, you approve it and RuCode logs it as a checkpoint. See below. You have a clear audit trail. This makes tasks like setting up an environment or running integration tests reproducible and safe. You can rerun or roll back if something goes wrong. Browser-assisted research. RuCode can even browse the web to help answer questions or find code examples. It does this with a headless Chromium browser under the hood, similar to how tools like Klein, another Claude-based agent, worked. When you ask a question that requires outside knowledge, for example, what is the correct syntax for a CSS Flex container? Or search Stack Overflow for how to fix this specific error. RuCode can open a browser, navigate to a relevant page, and read the content. It can click links, copy text from documentation, or search for error messages. Concretely, you might say, look up the best practice for defining a GraphQL schema and summarize it. In response, RuCode could navigate to an official GraphQL docs site, scrape the key points, and quote a summary for you. Or you might say, open the NPM registry page for package X. The agent would launch a Chromium instance, go to the address, and you or Ru itself can see the info. Then, if you needed to, RuCode could even copy code snippets from that page into your project. This browser automation is explicitly mentioned in RuCode's features. According to one review, RuCode inherits Klein's browser automation via headless Chromium. In practice, this means its AI agent can retrieve external data as if you had done the web search yourself. If an error message pops up while running tests, you could have RuCode search it on Google or Stack Overflow to find a fix. This adds a sort of research assistant capability. The AI isn't limited to your local code. It can pull in new ideas from the internet, subject to the permission you give, of course. Of course, you have full control. RuCode will only open tabs or navigate where you allow, and by default, you confirm each web action. This ensures your privacy and focus, but the net effect is that the AI agent is not blind. It can assist with research, documentation lookup, and knowledge gathering in ways a static chatbot cannot. Tasks, setup, migrations, integration tests. To see how RuCode can help in real development workflows, consider these scenarios. Project environment setup. When starting a new project, you often need to install libraries, initialize config files, set environment variables, etc. You might ask RuCode, set up a Node.js project with Express and a SQLite database. It would run npm init, install Express and SQLite packages, create basic config and directory structure, and maybe scaffold an example endpoint. In architect mode, it might first outline the necessary steps, write a plan in a to-do list, then in code mode, execute them. Database migrations. For an existing project, you might add a new feature requiring schema changes. You could prompt, create a migration to add a users table with fields ID, name, and email. RuCode would switch to architect mode to plan the migration, recognizing your project uses, say, Django or SQLize, then switch to code mode to run the migration tool. It might even open the generated migration file so you can review changes. If the migration fails on first try, maybe due to a syntax error or missing dependency, it can help debug that failure. Integration tests. Suppose you want to add or fix integration tests. You can ask, write an integration test that checks the API endpoint for listing products. RuCode could go to your test folder, create a new test file, write the test code, possibly referencing existing unit tests or specs, and then run the test suite. If a test fails, you could switch to debug mode and have the AI assist in fixing the code under test or adjusting the test. It could add log statements or breakpoints systematically to find the root cause. When doing these complex tasks, RuCode's multi-mode approach is key. For example, you might start in architect mode to get a high-level plan. Architect mode is read-only. It won't change files and focuses on planning and designing your changes. It might output a checklist or sequence of steps. Once you're happy with the plan, you switch to code mode to actually implement those steps. If any step fails or causes an error, you can switch to debug mode, which uses a methodical approach of analyzing, narrowing possibilities, and fixing issues. Debug mode might propose adding logging or isolating a function call and asking targeted questions about the failure. This orchestrated workflow, plan, execute, test, debug, can save a lot of time. It's like having an extra pair of hands that not only types code, but also understands the context and logic. At each stage, RuCode asks for your approval on actions that affect your project, so you never lose control of your codebase. AI model backends and configurations. RuCode is model agnostic, meaning it can work with any AI model that follows the OpenAI-compatible API standards. You can configure it to use Anthropic's Claude, Sonnet, or Opus, OpenAI's ChatGPT, GPT models, Google's models, or local engines. In fact, one of RuCode's key selling points is this flexibility. You can assign different models to different modes. For example, Architect mode might use a larger, more creative model like Claude Opus, better at planning, while Code mode could use a faster, cheaper model like DeepSeek V3 or a fine-tuned GPT, better at generating code. This way, you balance cost and performance. The marketplaces and reviews list the supported models explicitly. RuCode supports Claude, GPT, DeepSeek, Gemini, and local Ollama models. Because it's open source, there's no proprietary lock-in. If a new model comes out, for instance GPT 4.0 or Claude 5, RuCode can usually integrate it quickly via the OpenAI-compatible interface. In practice, the choice of model affects how well RuCode performs. A more powerful model can handle complex reasoning and long prompts better, but costs more per token. A cheaper or local model might miss some nuances. For most users, starting with the free Claude Sonnet, if you have an Anthropic Claude subscription, or a free OpenAI key, maybe using GPT 3.5, is a good way to experiment. As a DataCamp tutorial suggests, you can even use an API router like OpenRouter or others to seamlessly use different models. Advanced users of RuCode often share configuration profiles for different models in a community marketplace, tailoring each mode's AI to the task. Overall, model configuration is a strength of RuCode. It means you're not limited to what one AI company provides. You can choose what's best for your budget and domain. For example, using Claude Opus in Architect mode might give better planning outputs, while using an open source model in Code mode can keep costs down for routine edits. RuCode makes it easy to switch providers by just changing a setting in the extension's configuration panel. Brushinol and Prasu Arma with RuCode. Prompting strategies and modes. To get the best out of RuCode, you simply describe what you want in clear English and let it handle the details. Under the hood, RuCode uses a sophisticated system prompt that styles its responses depending on the mode. For the user, this means you have a few verbs and a mode context to think about. Architect mode. Treat Ru as a project planner. Ask it to plan or design something. It will outline steps, draw architectures, or write to-do lists without touching code. Code mode. This is the default doer mode. Here, Ru acts as a software engineer. You give it tasks and it implements them, edits files, writes code, runs commands. Ask mode. Use this for quick questions or explanations. Ru plays a helpful tutor who explains code, gives examples, or looks up concepts, using its browser tool if needed. Debug mode. This mode is for fixing problems. It triggers Ru's built-in debugging technique. It will suggest adding logs, isolating the error, or stepping through code logically. Custom modes. You can create your own modes, e.g., security or documentation, with custom instructions, so Ru behaves like specialized experts. You switch modes by clicking a drop-down in the RuCode UI, or by typing a / command in the chat. Code, architect, debug, etc. The AI will confirm with you when a mode switch is made. Behind the scenes, each mode uses a different system prompt persona. The code mode prompt tells Ru you are a highly skilled software engineer, whereas architect mode might say you're an experienced technical leader and planner. This focus helps avoid confusion. Because RuCode is basically chat-based, how you phrase requests matters, but it's fairly natural. For example, instead of listing detailed steps yourself, you can simply say, "Tell me what needs to be done to add user authentication to this app," in architect mode. Or, "Implement user login with hashing and a sessions table," in code mode. Ru will then break down the request. You don't have to write the perfect prompt. Ru code is designed to hold context and ask follow-up questions if needed. If it misunderstands, just clarify or try a different mode. One helpful tip is to start with a broader request to get Ru going, then iterate. You might first say, plan out how to structure this module, review Ru's answer, then say, now implement step 2. Ru code even recognizes when to hand off between modes. For example, it might autonomously use architect mode to plan, then switch to code mode to execute without you having to manually type /code. You can also manually change mode at any point. Overall, the prompt strategy is straightforward. State your task, and like Ru code's multi-mode system, take care of the workflow. Nearly all interaction is done through simple instructions or questions, and Ru code's built-in tools, like file editing and terminal, manage the low-level details. This makes it accessible even if you don't know how the tools work under the hood. You just see outputs and confirm actions. Handling failures and errors. No AI tool is perfect, and sometimes commands or edits will fail. Ru code is designed to handle this gracefully. Remember that you always approve each action by default. If a command fails, say a shell command returns an error, Ru code will report that error back to you. You could then switch to debug mode and ask it to figure out why. The debug mode is trained to take a methodical approach to errors. For example, if a test failed, Ru code might add print statements or isolate the failing function, then reason about the possible cause. It can even search error logs and suggest fixes, much like an experienced developer would. Ru code also has a feature called checkpoints that makes recovering from mistakes easy. By default, Ru code creates automatic checkpoints in a hidden Git repository whenever it runs a task or edits files. A checkpoint captures the exact state of all your files. If something goes wrong, you can revert to a previous checkpoint with one click, effectively undoing the agent's changes. This is like having an unlimited undo for complex operations. You can compare your current code against a checkpoint, seeing added removed lines, or restore files to that point. DataCamp also highlights this Git-like checkpointing system, which ensures no change is permanent until you're ready. For example, if you ask Ru code to refactor something and it does the wrong thing, it's easy to roll back. Just find the checkpoint created before the change and restore it. You can even restore part of a task, files only, or wipe the whole chat history to start the task over. This makes Ru code's actions reproducible and safe. Any unwanted modifications can be reverted instantly, so you can experiment confidently. In short, when a tool or step fails, Ru code will pause and let you know. You can then either fix the issue yourself with its help via debug mode, or simply reject the change and revert via checkpoints. The permission-based design and checkpoint system together provide a safety net that protects your workflow from accidental errors. Configuration, safe file access, and reproducible sessions. Ru code is permission-based. Every file change or terminal command it proposes requires your approval. This means the extension will never overwrite or delete anything unless you explicitly say yes. You can even set some actions to auto-approve for convenience. For example, you might auto-approve reading files, but always manually approve deletions. This granular control keeps risky operations in check. If there are certain files or directories you never want Ru code to touch, for example, configuration files with secrets or large build directories, you can use a .ruignore file in your project. This works like a .gitignore for Ru code. In your .ruignore, list any paths that the AI should ignore. Ru code will then skip those when performing searches or edits. This is helpful for excluding private keys, test databases, or any generated files. It even helps the checkpoint system ignore build artifacts automatically. In essence, you fully control what code the AI sees and modifies. For reproducibility, Ru code's checkpointing described above is your friend. To ensure consistent results across sessions, make sure Git is installed. Ru code uses a shadow Git repository for its checkpoints. Checkpoints are on by default, but you can turn them off in the settings if you prefer. Use them as a history. Every time you start a major task, you'll see an initial checkpoint marker in the chat, and after each set of edits, you'll see a new checkpoint. You can name checkpoints, view diffs, and revert as described. This means your work with Ru code is exactly reproducible. If you or a colleague starts from the same project state and repeats the conversation, you'll get the same checkpoint sequence and code changes. Finally, since RuCode is local to VS Code, your code never leaves your machine unless you deliberately send it to an external API. As the official RuCode documentation reassures, even then, you control exactly what is sent to the AI model, and with .ruignore, you can exclude sensitive files. You can also run RuCode entirely offline using local models, in which case no data goes out at all. In short, RuCode is designed to be a safe, configurable assistant where you remain in charge of your files and environment. Getting started and next steps. If RuCode sounds helpful, the first step is easy. Install the RuCode extension from the VS Code Marketplace. Search for RuCode or find it here. After installing, you'll go through a quick setup where RuCode prompts you to configure your AI model provider. You will need an API key for your chosen model, Anthropic's Claude, OpenAI, etc. If you don't have one, RuCode supports free options. For example, you can use the Open Router service, which includes $5 free credit to try out many models, including Claude Sonnet. There's also an option to use local models via Ollama or similar tools. Detailed documentation is available on, though note the docs mention the extension is being handed off to the community, so check the latest status. Once set up, the simplest way to begin is to open a project in VS Code. Click on the RuCode icon to open its chat panel, and type a natural language request. For example, try create a README file that describes the project. RuCode will then ask which mode you want, or auto-select code mode, and propose creating readme.md with a draft. If you approve, it will write it. You'll see each step as a pair of messages in the chat interface. RuCode might say, using code mode to create readme.md with the project description, with a preview, and you click Approve. This hands-on process lets you learn by seeing AI-generated code and documentation. After that, you might try a more advanced prompt. For instance, in a web project, you can say, in architect mode, plan the file structure and necessary dependencies for a simple to-do web app using React and Flask. RuCode will respond with an outline, folder names, tech choices, step-by-step plan. Then switch to code mode and say, follow the plan, scaffold the React frontend and Flask backend, including installing needed libraries. RuCode will then run terminal commands, create React app, pip install Flask, etc., and create files per the plan. Each action will be logged as a checkpoint. You can experiment like this on a toy project or an existing one. Next steps in your product creation journey. Start small, then iterate. RuCode excels at iterative workflows. Plan a feature, implement it, test it, refine it with the AI's help. Use architect mode to strategize your feature or migration, then code mode to execute, then ask mode to verify understanding, and debug mode to fix any issues. Keep an eye on the chat history and checkpoints. You can save or restore at any point. Because RuCode is open source and free, feel encouraged to explore. Read the user guide and examples. Danacamp's tutorial is a great walkthrough. Join the community on Discord, Reddit if you get stuck. And try building a small feature end-to-end with RuCode's help. With each request, you'll learn more about how to phrase prompts and manage the modes. Conclusion. RuCode brings advanced AI assistance directly into VS Code, letting even beginners approach coding tasks in a conversational way. Its multi-file refactoring, terminal integration, and browser-assisted research mean it can genuinely take on complex tasks like environment setup, code migrations, and testing workflows. It supports various AI models, including Claude, and offers fine-grained control, so you can tailor it to your project and the level of autonomy you want. Safety features like user approvals, ignore patterns, and automatic checkpoints help prevent mistakes and keep sessions reproducible. Even if you've never used an AI agent for coding, RuCode is designed to be approachable. You give it simple instructions in English and watch it do the tedious work. It's like having an extra pair of hands and a pair of eyes on your code. For example, you might tell RuCode to add a feature, and it will generate the code, write or update multiple files, run your tests, and report back, all without you manually typing each step. Why try RuCode? Because it takes some of the grunt work out of coding and can speed up learning. New coders can ask it to explain errors or suggest fixes, Seasoned coders can use it to automate repetitive changes. To start, simply install the extension, connect your chosen AI key, and ask it a question or a coding task. RuCode will show you exactly what it plans to do before doing it, so you can watch and learn. This makes it not just a time saver, but a teaching tool. The first next step for your product journey is to install RuCode and let it help outline your product. For instance, open your project and ask RuCode in architect mode to draft a high-level plan. What files and steps are needed to implement feature X? Review its suggestions, then tell it to start. Run the tasks in code mode and let RuCode handle the details. As you go, mark checkpoints and observe how it organizes the work. This interplay of your guidance and the AI's automation can accelerate development and give you confidence. And with RuCode safeguards in place, you'll always have a safety net. By unlocking AI in this way, RuCode aims to make coding more accessible. As one reviewer noted, it's like moving beyond code autocomplete to a whole dev team of AI agents. With practice, even non-experts can harness this tool to build real products. Give it a try on a small task today. You might be surprised how much it can help. All links to sources are available in the text version of this article. You can find the full article at easycoding.tools/blog. Thanks for listening. For more practical AI coding guides, tool comparisons, and resources for builders, visit easycoding.tools. And if it's easier to remember, just go to aibuilds.it. It redirects to easycoding.tools.